Hey, welcome back to class with Prof. Eve. Happy to get back on here for my November 2025 video. Can't believe that the year is almost over. One more month of 2025, and then we're moving into 2026. Inshallah. I am so excited about the new year and ready, but I'm also not rushing the rest of this year. There's a lot of things that I want to get done before this year is over. So I'm wanting the rest of this year to take its time. But I am looking forward to next year. So anyway, Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to talk about holidays because 'tis the season, right? It's November, so we've had, I guess Halloween was last month. That is a holiday that I enjoy, one of my favorite holidays. That was last month in October. And then we have the Thanksgiving holiday this month of November. And then, of course, there's Christmas in December. And I'm talking about United States celebrated holidays. So these aren't holidays that are celebrated all over the world necessarily, and some things are celebrated on different days and all of that. So just to remind folks of my particular social context. So we're in the thick of holiday season, which is really chaotic, but also wholesome, in some ways as well. For some people, I do enjoy the vibe of the holidays. I feel like everyone feels like they have to at least pretend to be nice, kind, and caring. And so you get that for at least, a month and a half, 2 months, until after the new year or something like that. And so I do enjoy, just kind of the sense of heightened love and care and joy, that seems to be in the air around this time of year. However, I do, become kind of annoyed about the consumerism that is connected to all, Western holidays, where it's strongly encouraged that you go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff, eat a whole lot of food, drink a whole lot of stuff, and just, consume a lot. And so that's something that I am not a huge fan of. And I've, developed these specific practices within my own family to sort of mediate that in a way that is comfortable and that makes sense with me and my own principles. So there's a lot, that could be discussed around holidays. But in this particular video, I want to talk about how I approach holidays as a Muslim. So generally, Muslims, and I'm talking about, I guess I'll say Sunni Muslims, which are how most, Muslims identify. Even though I think that there is a good amount of Sufi Muslims, and maybe even more, or at least right up there with the Sunni Muslims in the world. And so, but I think this would even apply for Sufis as well, which I do identify actually as Sufi. So I think this is a general Islamic perspective, but there could be some variation. There's always variation, right, among different people and different populations. Um, but generally, we're taught to refrain from taking part in non-Islamic holidays and celebrations. Most of this comes from hadith, which are things that have been recorded based on the sayings and the behaviors, lifestyle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Peace and blessings be upon him. So those are what's called hadith. But the Quran also has several references to, not mimicking or imitating the lifestyles and the behaviors of non-believers or pagans. I guess a word that some people would understand is like infidel, even though that's not the word that I'm saying. It's referenced in the Quran, but not imitating or that believers that Muslims should not, follow the behaviors of non-believers, right, or non-Muslims. Not engage in their activities, and their celebrations are a part of that. So those types of things are specifically referenced in the Quran. So, of course, everyone approaches this in different ways. I was not born Muslim. I have been Muslim for several years now. Alhamdulillah. I want to say that I'm approaching 8 years or so pretty soon. And so that's really exciting. But I was not born into a Muslim family. And so I grew up celebrating traditional American holidays, and just doing what everyone else, was doing that was Muslim, right, in this country. And so when I became Muslim, it didn't make sense to me or feel comfortable for me to completely dismiss all affiliations with holidays, especially the ones that I had enjoyed and the ones that I felt were okay and still compatible, with my religious beliefs. So I had to make sense of that immediately. As with other things, right? There's a lot of things that I contend with when it comes to Islamic teachings and even things that I read in the Quran. I think that there are things to be debated, discussed, challenged, reinterpreted, reassessed. All of that. I think that we should be doing all of that, right, when it comes to our religious doctrine and our religious text. And I do see a lot of that actually in Islam. But I think that there is some pushback when it comes to criticism, um, or pushing back against certain principles, right, that people believe are foundational. So anyway, all of this to say that, of course, people have different ways of making sense of this, and my way of doing that is to still celebrate the holidays that I enjoy, in a way that makes sense to me, in a way that is comfortable for me, and in a way that still feels aligned to my Islamic values. So since I'm not a big fan of celebrating everything anyway, it's been pretty easy for me to not pay much attention to holidays because I don't care about most of them anyway. I do like the opportunity to slow down a little bit and reconnect with friends and family. I think that's a beautiful part of holidays. And I think that that's something that should be built into our daily life and into work schedules and things like that. We should have time off to rest and reconnect with family. We shouldn't relegate that to holidays only. So I do appreciate that aspect of holidays, as well as making food and eating good food. Also enjoy traveling, right, and all of those aspects of holidays. But the consumerism and capitalism of it all is problematic. So anyway, Halloween and Christmas are really, and Kwanzaa, are really the non-Islamic holidays that I still celebrate, that I really enjoy, and that I plan to continue to celebrate. And I am not really into, as far as Halloween is concerned, I'll start there. I'm not really into gory, murderous blood, laden stuff anyway. And so that doesn't tend to be a part of my decorations and things like that. I tend to go with skulls and spiders and witch hats and stuff like that. So that, for me, is nice. It's just something that resonates with who I am and what I like. Anyway, aside from me being Muslim, but it also worked well with my Islamic, beliefs, or just my beliefs around promoting violence or whatever, some of the connotations of some of the Halloween decorations and displays are. I don't really want to get into that just generally. I'm not into some of that stuff, just me personally, right? So it's pretty easy to avoid some of that stuff that would lean more into that area of like violence, murder, or like really sexual, stuff. Like I don't wear like costumes. I don't dress in a way where I'm showing a lot of skin generally anyway in my daily life. And so, of course, when I choose a costume, if I decide to dress up for Halloween, then it's a costume that also covers, my body, a costume that I feel is modest, just like my clothing that I wear in my daily life. So it's those sorts of considerations, right, that I make when it comes to Halloween. And the same, with Christmas, I'm not into Santa Claus, and I don't believe that Christmas marks the birth of Jesus. These aren't beliefs that I have, and so those aren't things that I acknowledge during Christmas time, right? So I just hang up some red bows. I like snowmen. I like ginger. I have a gingerbread person pillow and a candy cane pillow here. Like these are the kinds of things that I like about the Xmas holiday and just the wintry, season around that time. Uh, and so those are the things that I kind of lean into. I do buy my children a few gifts, and it is literally a few gifts. We don't, me and their father don't give them, tons of gifts. We give them a few. And we talk to them all the time, about gratitude and appreciation and getting things that are useful and all those sorts of things. But they do get, a few gifts during Christmas and sometimes during Kwanzaa, but with Kwanzaa, you make your own gifts. You don't usually, buy them. So, yeah, Kwanzaa I celebrate as well, where that's just kind of acknowledging African traditions and culture. And so there's no need to really intentionally try to figure out some way to align that with being Muslim. It naturally aligns, in my opinion, with being, an African woman, Black woman, and being Muslim. Kwanzaa just works for that. So, yeah, it's not a difficult thing for me. I know that it's not something that everyone is in favor of, and I'm sure there's some Muslims that may be watching this video right now who are like, "Oh, that's so terrible," and that's fine. But this is my choice and what I choose to do, what I'm happy with, what my kids are content with as well, and it works out well. So those are the three non-Islamic holidays that I celebrate, and those were Halloween, some aspects of the Christmas season holiday that aren't tied to Santa Claus or Jesus at all, and I celebrate Kwanzaa. And aside from that, of course, I celebrate Ramadan and Eid as well. And those are my favorites. I guess my favorite holidays are Ramadan and Eid, and then probably Halloween after that. So I think that's about it. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah, I think I mentioned that. Oh, there was one other critique that I had about holidays that I hadn't mentioned, and this will be the last thing, I believe. Western holidays, US holidays can be very exclusionary to different family structures, to different types of relationships. They're very heteronormative, meaning that they usually cater to, market to, provide products and services to heterosexual people. People who self-identify as man or woman, who are in relationships with people of a gender that they would be considered opposite in this binary way of thinking about gender, right? That heterosexual normative behavior or heteronormativity is all wrapped up in holidays. So, that's an issue for a lot of folks who don't come from nuclear families or who aren't in romantic relationships or who may not be as connected to their families. You really can feel isolated during holiday season. And so it doesn't always generate the most positive, happy, peaceful feelings for everyone, right? Not that things need to always lead to that sort of outcome, but there is this sort of assumption that you're always supposed to be happy and celebrating something around holidays, and I don't think that that's realistic, right? So I think that's about it. I am looking forward to moving into winter more. I do make some food on the Thanksgiving holiday. I don't celebrate it by joining with people over a big meal anymore. That's something I don't feel comfortable doing out of my beliefs and understanding about Native American history in the United States. I don't think that that story, that narrative is something to be celebrated. Again, I do like the idea of coming together with people making food and having good company. And so I have a difficult time with that when it comes to Thanksgiving in particular. I still like to cook, right? So I usually just make a meal and I'll like just, have it alone or with very few people, something like that, where it's not necessarily linked to like this big Thanksgiving feast type of thing. So I'll make something this year. I don't know what my meal is going to be this year, but I'm looking more toward December, winter solstice, and the Christmas season, and Kwanzaa, all of that, more so, and then going into January, the new year, my birthday, inshallah. So happy holidays. If you don't celebrate, I hope that you have opportunities for rest, peace, comfort, joy, however you can find it. Grasp any moments that you can have it and find it, in this life. And thank y'all for checking out this video, and subscribe to the channel if this content sounds good to you, or these are the kinds of videos that I make. Sometimes they're more academic, sometimes they're more lifestyle, sometimes they're just social commentary. Sometimes I go live and talk about random things or do reading sprints or book reviews. Lots of other things coming on this channel as we continue to move forward. And I have some new things going on that I want to talk to you all about soon. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.